Well, there were two very powerful speeches. Barack Obama is an extraordinarily gifted orator. I think everybody agrees with that. He is a real thoroughbred in American presidential politics. When I was hearing, "Yes, we can," I was thinking it was 1963, of course, when Dr. Martin Luther King launched the civil rights movement effectively with a march on Washington, and I have a dream. And this was, of course, part of the dream, is that there could be an African-American who would be in contention for the presidency of the United States. And then Hillary Clinton, who's been through so much in her personal and political life and has always been a fighter and a survivor. We remember, all of us, obviously, when she was First Lady and politically controversial, and then personally humiliated by her husband's behavior. When she ran for Senate from New York, a lot of people said that's presumptuous of her and she can't possibly win. But of course she did very well, as you know, Chris, in upstate conservative New York. And tonight she makes this very powerful comeback, and there will be people going back into her campaign thinking maybe it is possible that she can now win the nomination. When all of this has happened in just the last 5 days or so, there has already been a subtle change in the campaign, not just in her demeanor over the last 48 hours, but in her appearance tonight. The sign was change will be coming to America, and we saw no Bill Clinton on stage with her, no Madeleine Albright, no Wesley Clark on stage, a lot more young people. They're changing the complexion of this campaign on the run as well, Chris.
Yeah, that was quite a youthful cheering section about her. Tom, hold on there. Let's bring in Howard Wolfson, who's communications director of Hillary Clinton's campaign. Howard, I listened to you and I found my own voice. Explain that evolution if you can.
Well, you know, on the trail here, as you probably observed, Senator Clinton was taking question after question, really listening to the voters of New Hampshire, answering their questions, and really showing who she was. And you and she had a moment at one point that I saw that I thought was quite nice, and people here really responded. I thought there were a couple of very key moments. Certainly in the last 24 hours, we saw one of them, and I also think the debate was a key moment in which Senator Clinton drew some important contrasts on the issues, on the record, with Senator Obama, and people responded, especially over the last 48 hours.
Well, let me ask you, I know it's a tricky position as the communications director, but let me ask you to perhaps showcase some of the moments people have said for the last couple of hours were critical to her comeback. One was her comment on the Saturday night debate, the Charlie Gibson ABC debate, where she responded to a question from Charlie wherein he did put to her the charge, almost, the indictment that some people didn't like her. And she said, "You're hurting my feelings." And then later on, the same kind of sort of plaintive acknowledgement of hurt when she talked about the pressure on her during the last couple of hours of the campaign. Do you think the appeal of Hillary Clinton is always going to be a mix of the appeal of her strength and a bit of empathy for her as a woman?
Well, I certainly think that the American public is looking for strength in a president, and Hillary Clinton has that. I also think that the American public wants to know who their presidential candidates are. They want to get a sense of what makes them tick. They want to know what motivates them. And I think over the past week here in New Hampshire, voters got to see that from Hillary Clinton, maybe in a way that they hadn't previously. You know, this is a very grueling, intensive process. The candidates, all of them, really, to their credit, were working full out from December 26th in Iowa until January 3rd in Iowa, and then they came right to New Hampshire and went 5 days without any sleep. Getting up every day at dawn, working well past dusk to midnight sometimes, and you get to see what somebody is made of under those conditions. And I think people like what they saw when they saw Senator Clinton this past week here in New Hampshire.
Howard, mechanically speaking, given how universal all polling was, even internal candidates polling about this, that the closest thing seemed to be the one poll that we've quoted throughout the evening that came out of Suffolk University that only had Obama winning tonight by 1%. All of the polling was wrong. Mechanically, What changed? One of the exit polls suggests 38% of the voters in the Democratic primary made up their minds in the last 3 days. Is that sufficient to explain this, or how mechanically, demographically, do you explain what happened tonight?
Well, look, I think much to his credit, Senator Obama came into New Hampshire carrying with him a tremendous amount of energy. And he was really riding a wave out of Iowa. And I think that began to change at the debate when we began to draw some contrasts on the issues on the record. And then I think people who took a look at this race in the last 48 hours decided they liked what they saw from Senator Clinton. She was speaking from the heart. She found her voice. And I think most of the people who were making up their minds over the last 24, 48 hours broke towards us. You know, people in Iowa take this process so seriously. People in New Hampshire take this process so seriously. And I think people in New Hampshire were willing to give both candidates a second look. And they like what they saw from Senator Clinton, especially here in the last 48 hours.
5 hours ago, Howard, we were told by D.D. Myers that Senator Clinton was not at any point really the front runner in this race. I'm not going to ask you to contradict that statement, which would be rendered inoperative by the events of the last 5 hours. But is she, just for the record now, is she the front runner now?
You know, I never used that term before, and I'm certainly not going to use it now. This process, as we said out of Iowa, this is a marathon. And it goes from here to the states of Nevada and South Carolina, and then so many large states on February 5th. And, you know, I think something else happened here in New Hampshire. People said, you know, we want to have an opportunity to look at these candidates. We want to size up their records. We want to put them through their paces. We want to have an opportunity to participate. And I think that's what Americans all around the country are saying.
Let me ask you, Howard, about Hillary Clinton that you know and love, the person you worked for and work with. Is there any plan to try to bring her out? She used the phrase tonight, I listened to you and I found my own voice. Well, clearly she felt that she had evolved in finding her voice. Is that something that's going to be becoming a part of the campaign, this perhaps more spontaneous appeal to the people? Is there something here beyond what she said? I mean, I found my own voice is something we all say in talk radio. We say it in writing columns. It takes a while to find out what your voice really sounds like. Has Hillary Clinton, through all her years in public life, been too scripted and only now under tremendous pressure been able to find the way she really feels when she speaks?
You know, it's a very good question, and I appreciate it. You know, adversity really does test people. And, you know, we were down by 15 points here 3 days ago. Senator Clinton, like all the candidates, was exhausted. And I think from that experience, she was speaking from the heart. She was saying what she felt. She was taking questions from people. She was reacting to the moment. And I think people appreciated it. And I think that's something that Senator Clinton is going to continue to do going forward. It's something that she recognized here in New Hampshire. People want to know what motivates these candidates. They want to know what makes them tick. They want to know why they're doing what they're doing. And I think here in New Hampshire, Senator Clinton began to tell a little bit more about that, and people clearly have responded in tremendous ways. I mean, you don't make up a 15-point deficit in 2 or 3 days to somebody who had come out of Iowa with the kind of head of steam that Senator Obama had without really making a tremendous impact on people, and that's what's happened here.
Well, I've seen her now address large crowds in the last couple of days, thousands of people under tremendous stress when it looked like she was losing this primary campaign based upon all the polling. And she stood out there for several hours at a time taking every question, just like Bill did back in '92, in this same kind of in-the-round arena, exposing herself to just about every kind of question. And, of course, last night, before a hothouse crowd of thousands of people with the cars lined up for the longest time to get into that arena, she stood there and took the heat under what looked to be a difficult time in terms of the polling again, and I give her a lot of personal credit. I will never underestimate Hillary Clinton again. Thank you very much for coming on tonight, Howard Wolfson.
Thank you, Chris.